Can you hear me? I'm just thinking that I should probably put this down as well.
Hello everyone. Okay, right now we're having Alexander Bokovoy. Okay.
Right.
He will deliver enterprise identity in GNOME. So here we are, and please give an applause.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is actually interesting. We have two enterprise-related talks at this GUADEC, and I think we had none in all like 5 last years. And I have idea why this happened, mostly because the server side, which I represent here, actually got ready to show something and get integrated. And yeah, really, what is kind of enterprise? Yeah, like many free software developers, I'm working from home. How enterprising that could be. Taking up, going to shower, then taking your laptop, and going back to bed. That's enterprise at home, right? Well, almost. In reality, there are many places where you work from office, but that office is not managed by your corporate IT department. So it's not really your corporate environment, you're still outside of it, right? Then the company services might simply be spread it out in such way that they are outside of Great Firewall, they are inside a Great Firewall, and the definition what is corporate is really becoming blurry for the cloud services, and the cloud services become blurry, so it doesn't really matter where you are. Either you're inside a firewall or outside a firewall, where you're on VPN or not. And obviously, like many other people, I have multiple identities. I guess in our age, we all have the multiple identities disorder by presenting it ourselves as many identities. Really, even on the free software side, I have to wear multiple hats. So I do multiple projects. I do Samba, I do FreeIPA, I do SSSD. I did this stuff, the Midgard, which is web-based, it's something stuff, 17 years long. And I have certificates that present me legally, like my identity card has S-MIME certificate issued by Finnish government, which is valid, and whether I want it or not, it's on my Finnish ID card, so I can use it to sign emails that I send, and they will be accepted actually legally. And if I want to have this working on my laptop, should I consider this enterprise feature or not? And I obviously want to use all this stuff with my home network, with my corporate network, with everything at the same time. So there's no a situation that I have only one identity and that identity local, or that identity always remote. So I work on FreeIPA. It's an umbrella project that unifies a bunch of other projects like Tier 3 server, meaning LDAP, Kerberos, DNS server with some plugins for bind, SSSD, which is the client side of the authentication and identity, and a bunch of other themes actually. The nature of integration and kind of umbrella project is that you have to deal with many sides, with really opinionated people everywhere, especially in the security area, like with Mozilla guys on NSS library. You have to deal with a lot of different stuff. And FreeIPA is available for, what, 7 years? Available in Fedora. We got into Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Through that, we got in CentOS. And last year, we were 1 week short to get into Debian, into actual official release of Debian, because there was a freeze and we were one week late. So it's there in seed. People can use it. Hopefully Canonical will release it in Ubuntu this autumn, because they are interested and spend time actually delivering things into Debian for that. And for many non-contributors, they know FreeIPA for last year or so, because that's now your GNOME account. And you get actual access to the whole UI, right? And it's interesting. Many people probably already saw the UI, so showing the UI is not a big deal. Maybe it's useful to show, but you already experience it, which is a unique situation, because even if we have corporate customers that are running this software, we don't hear publicly about that. And many customers are not really willing to disclose how their IT infrastructure is built, partially because of the Snowden revelations, partially because of the competitive advantages, who knows. Anyway, what happens is that there's increasing amount of corporate environments running on almost completely free software at the core of the infrastructure. And as many corporations are going into bring your own device kind of idea on supporting customers, this means that we actually get those customers coming and asking, can you get the client side working as well as you get the server side? So a typical workflow for every laptop reboot, which happens sometimes. I actually lost my root partition today because of preparation of this demo. There was something that wiped half of my Python install, and some of Pulse audio libraries, so the GDM could not start. But that's the life. As you can see, I got to get the back, but hopefully it wouldn't prevent me showing some demos. So typical situation, you have to sign in some local account, because in order to authenticate to your corporate part, you have to be on a VPN if you're outside. If you're not on a VPN, you cannot authenticate, so you get chicken and egg problem. Usually people do this with a local account, log in, then get on VPN, then let's say get Kerberos credentials, establish session, and then use their applications. Microsoft sort of solved this problem in 2009 by introducing so-called direct access system, which proxies Kerberos over IPv6 tunnels, so that people can always be online. So it's kind of a implicit VPN there, and it works. It's hard to set up, but as it's set up by default, if the admin allows you, people tend to not see it working, because it just works. But the problem is that on our laptops, we still have to go through these 4 big steps, and each step is essentially a number of smaller steps that you have to run. If you want to deal, for example, with VPN, then you have to click more steps there, right? So can we do better? How far we are from really 2 steps? Log in or sign in your corporate environment and start using your applications. Okay, let's try to log in. So first I will do one thing. I will show you, I hope this is visible, or should I do, yeah. Is this better? Let me get the screen so that it's, yeah. Okay. So my time is 1 hour ahead of the local time, so you can see that it's 17:41 right now. And the ticket that I've got there is 4:45 actually. And that was the last time when I locked the screen. So let me lock the screen and log in into the system. You should notice that there's a request for the password. So I log in with my password, and if I look at the ticket that I got, it's actually a ticket just of this minute. So this is the recent ticket. I'm not on VPN now yet. This is the ticket that I got just now by logging into this machine. The only thing I needed is actually get a VPN, get a Wi-Fi access, or just a network access towards my corporate, which is my home infrastructure here. And let me get to VPN. I haven't entered anything, so my credentials were entered only once, right? This system is a client for FreeIPA, for my home install of FreeIPA. Well, home means that it's installed somewhere in the data center or somewhere in, I think, Netherlands. The SSSD part on the client handles the login and obtaining the Kerberos credentials. That would work normally in a typical home or corporate environment. If you come there, plug in the cable, it will look up your Kerberos server and talk to it directly. Now in this system, it talks to Kerberos using proxy over a public network. That proxy, of course, is using some certificates to wrap the channel. It's HTTPS and so on. The proxy is actually run by the OpenConnect VPN server. So it's kind of combines two things there. I first obtain a ticket, and then I present this ticket by OpenConnect client itself presents this ticket when trying to log into the server. And server accepts this ticket because, well, I have configured the server that it accepts it within, I think, like 15 minutes after I after I obtained the ticket, so that I kind of prevent abuse of this ticket later. So I have 15 minutes to log in onto VPN, and now I'm on a VPN. I have established connection, and I only entered my credentials once when I unlocked my screen. And if I look at the actual credentials cache, I can see that there is another ticket in that credentials cache. That's the ticket to HTTP service, the service that actually corresponds to my VPN gateway. So this is something that does not exist anywhere yet. It's SSSD Git master, something that will be in Fedora 23. The server side already runs on Fedora 22. You just install FreeIPA, install OpenConnect server, configure it with a nice article written by Nikos, one of authors of OpenConnect, and it works. It's really like few minutes of work. Follow instructions and you got it done. But the interesting part here is I really don't care where I am, whether I'm inside the corporate firewall or I'm outside. I have a ticket, granting ticket, this KRB-TGT, that allows me to obtain certain other tickets to other services, for example, to VPN. Now, what I get is a key component of it is the Kerberos proxy. So the Kerberos proxy is something that was written, I think in 2007 or 2009 by Microsoft. They tried to solve this problem. The protocol is called a bit weirdly, like with all Microsoft specs. It's KKDCP, which is, I don't remember what the first K means. The second is Key Distribution Center, and then the protocol, of course. It's transparent now for Kerberos library users. So if your application speaks JSS API or speaks KRB5 directly, the MIT libKRB5 library starting from 1.13, yes, 1.13, does the job. It can fail over to a next KDC if there are multiple of them. It can mix and match internal and external ones, but you probably don't want to to specify both external and internal, because if you specified internal one and it's not accessible, then you're actually talking to some other host on the network that might be forging you at some point. But with the proxy, you have tight HTTPS connection, certificate, authenticated, and verified. So you pretty may be pretty sure that you get fairly good the other side that you can trust to. Now, this proxy, the server side of the proxy, is implemented by FreeIPA, by OpenConnect server from, I think, March of this year. We started talking to OpenConnect guys in Brno during DEF CON at February, right? In February, and the prototype was by the end of February and in release in March. That was really fast. So we now have 3 open source implementations. One, the standalone one, is the one that used for MIT integration, MIT Kerberos integration, kind of the upstream. The standalone one is something like 300 lines of Python code. Fairly simple, easy, maybe not so performant. The OpenConnect version is written in C and performant and recommended for use. Yeah, on the client side, SSSD just triggers the use of it based on the krb5.conf configuration. If you have KDC's address starting from HTTPS, then it switches into this specific mode of proxying to Kerberos. So on the VPN side, as I said, OpenConnect has this in Fedora 22. I think we will have this also in the next repatriated Linux update. Maybe next after next, who knows, depending on how good our quality engineers to weed out all the bugs there. Unfortunately, OpenVPN doesn't support GSS negotiation, and the questions are for 10 years appearing on the mailing lists, and people respond by denial, saying that it's not useful, not usable, something that you should not do. You should use certificates, and setting up certificates is known to be a bit problematic for many environments. But we are working also with IETF on several drafts to improve the initial negotiation on the Kerberos side, so that there's no way to hijack the initial connection, which is currently, I think, you can organize a brute force attack for 5 minutes or so, theoretically. But one thing here is that if we want to use VPN authentication based on Kerberos, we probably want to more stronger Kerberos authentication by itself. So if I want to use that to log in into VPN, then I most likely would like to use a second factor for that, or use certificates and the actual smart cards for that. Yes, we will be able to do that with the Kerberos that comes out this autumn. And the interesting part that we worked like maybe 4 years on that, and finally caught up with the upstream Kerberos community and got some parts there. But before that, I will go into the two-factor authentication. So this is the YubiKey, a normal one without a special smart card stuff there. It's just the one that has 2 slots for HOTP, TOTP, one-time passwords that change over time or change by increasing number of attempts, right? So if I go back here and I just insert the key here, and IPA has a command line interface that allows you to basically deal with the same way as on the web interface. I will come to web interface later, but I don't have any tokens defined right now. Let me add a token. So another reason why I'm going to the command line is because I cannot program USB devices from browser. There's a small command that basically loads on the client side, loads the Python bindings to YubiKey, programs USB device with the key. Key never left your laptop or actually your device, and then sends the information that is needed to calculate on the server side the same codes that the YubiKey generates to create the token for me. Okay, so I have a token. That's a unique ID. That's the description that we will see in the UI for it. And now, if I go and look into the two-factor authentication, it's basically the idea that you have a PIN and something that you own, something that you know. There are 2 different things. A PIN is my Kerberos password, and something that I own is this key, or something I run on my phone as a software token, which FreeOTP is one of those that Red Hat basically forked out from Google Authenticator. At some point when Google Authenticator source code was closed because Google decided that there are some user experience workflows that they want to keep closed. And this allows you to combine a password, combine a PIN code with the value coming from your token, whether it's hardware token or it's a software token, to authenticate against Kerberos server. We actually had the first full implementation of Kerberos two-factor authentication. Can we get the
Microphone.
Yeah.
So while we are waiting for a question, I will go into the web UI.
I just want to try and understand the process. It's pretty complex.
Yes.
So what you did there was you used command line tool from FreeIPA to speak to another software daemon or a software program called FreeOTP, which is free one-time password.
You're messing 2 things together. So FreeOTP is something that you run on your phone,
Right.
that essentially a software token, a software version of a hardware token.
Okay.
These are unrelated.
Okay, good. So what you just did then was generated a one-time password from a key that's already on the YubiKey with free
No.
IPA.
I programmed YubiKey completely with new key. I haven't used any password from it yet. I just programmed it and told the IPA server that I have this token associated with my user. Here is the token, here is the description that I got there, right? And it's associated with myself. So if I look at the users, then this token is associated with a single user, which is mine.
My understanding is that the YubiKey just holds slots for keys.
Yes,
So where does the one-time password come from? Generating from the key on the
once
YubiKey, no?
insert it into a laptop, this becomes a computer of itself. Pressing on this button causes it to send keys that are numbers as a keyboard. And let's see how this works. I lock the screen, and you can see that because I have token, the password here changes into the first factor. I guess we can call it differently. We need to work on a proper naming so that people understand. But the first factor is essentially my Kerberos password. Once I entered it, remember the first time when I locked the screen, this was just a password. It asks me for the second factor. The second factor is something that I get from this keyboard, right? I enter it, press it, and something was entered there. The enter is not part of the key, but you can program that the enter is added as well. But let's say press enter by myself. And I logged into the system, and two things happened. So the one-time password token was programmed, right, to the YubiKey, and it was added to the user, kind of associated with the user on the server side. The SSSD, when it handles login, it notices that the Kerberos starts responding, Kerberos server starts responding on a login saying that, hey, you can actually give me additional information, you can give me additional factors. And I like to take those factors. Ask the user for the factors. And SSSD says over a PAM stack to GDM, ask the user for additional conversation. That's why we solve factor, first factor, the second factor. And then log into the system is verified again through the same public Kerberos proxy over a public network. I get a ticket. The first factor is then provided by SSSD to GDM, so that GDM can unlock a key store. Because if I provide the first factor, the second factor is the same string. For example, if my password is test 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have six numbers coming out of this, I get the random string that never repeats in future, right? And then my key store will be encrypted with a random password that I will never be able to decrypt. That's why we need to split the entering of factors, so that we know that the first factor is something that we can rely on for other uses, like the key store. The other use for it is when I'm completely offline, I have no network, then I can log in into a machine using the first factor, if I'm allowed to. This at least allows me to live in a world where I can use my laptop. I cannot access any other services. My Kerberos ticket is fake, that it's always in past. Actually, it's Unix time 1, so it's 1970 something. I cannot use it because it's faked, but I can log in into machine and try to use local tools here. So at least some for the user, it's a natural experience that you can use it, whether you're online or offline, whether you're in premises or you're outside. And yeah, the credentials were entered only once. Whether they were like two different factors, but I entered them, this pair, only once. This system actually expands into multiple factors, so you don't need to be kind of fixed with two factors. You might have 3, 4, and more. The interesting part is that if I got this ticket, right, and this ticket is actually having some information that it was authenticated with a stronger factors than just a password, or will have with Kerberos 1.14 once it's released. Then the application can actually use this information and protect itself by saying that, hey, you cannot just obtain a ticket to HTTP service that represents my VPN just out of blue. You have to have a strongly authenticated ticket. Otherwise, you are not allowed to use VPN. That sounds kind of normal for the corporate environments, but we can extend that for other services. There's no way to limit, because the authentication indicator that Kerberos will put into the ticket is signed by the KDC itself, that it did that work, and it's just a string or number of strings. So we can say that, hey, a two-factor authentication, pre-authentication mechanism in Kerberos puts information that we are two-factor authenticated using the key with this encryption or signature algorithm. And then we can differentiate by the signature algorithm strength, depending on where we want to log in. So the next step to go is to use this information on the client side to derive some access. I will come to that. So what I can do with the ticket is I can authenticate with JSS API against almost anything. Most of the server software, like mail servers like IMAP, POP, and other protocols, they do support JSS API authentication. Web services do support. Well, of course, you need to implement your server using that support, but nevertheless, there is a possibility to do so. Then for most of the social networks, you get some third party verifying and asserting that you're and providing a token that the assertion that you can use. In a corporate environment, this assertion is done with the SAML specification, which is signed XML with signatures and so on, including identity information. So not only that a certain, like with OpenID, a certain URL is confirmed that it wants to use another service, but also includes information like a username is this, actual first name, last name of a person is this. It works since that time, so that the application can rely on that and build up something more interesting. With the OAuth 2 and OAuth, you just get assertion. You don't get this additional identity information. So you can use the ticket for accessing networking file systems like NFS, like SMB, or others that support it. WebDAV, for example, supports JSS API because it can be stacked with, at least in Apache, you can stack it with model of curve or model of JSS API and get all the data there. Yes, SSH can use, and that's one of the bigger uses for it. And then you can obviously display properties of the ticket like I showed it to you. The time when it was obtained, some flags, what is there, And obviously you can renew a ticket if your administrator allows it on the KDC side. Unfortunately, we cannot authenticate in Epify using JSS API. We were able to do that 5-6 years ago, but since the switch to WebKit, the functionality disappeared. So there is a bug that is dragging in libsoap for 6 years. It's a complex issue. It's not a funny one, but what it needs is someone taking time and implementing the rest of things. You don't need to go deep into Kerberos or JSS API. The actual modules that support different types of authentication, like JSS API is usually used for Kerberos and for NTLM SSP in the Microsoft world. We do have JSS API modules for Kerberos, that's the normal one. And now we have NTLM SSP implementation as well in Fedora. And that one can be used as well. So there is possibility, there's nothing preventing other than lack of effort to complete this. As a matter of that, WebKit GDK is unusable for running SAML or two things where you are not really using directly Kerberos, but as a part of signing in into some portal, you provide your ticket to your corporate SAML server, and that gives assertion back to, let's say, Google Apps that you are who you are. And you cannot set up this in a single sign-on fashion. Of course, you need to enter your password again at the portal. So obviously we can do better than this. The parts are in place. The Firefox actually shows that it's possible. So one thing I did is when I came here, I did not enter my password because Firefox actually used my Kerberos ticket because it's configured for using that. So if we look, where is it? Okay, let me re-authenticate again, and we will see it. I get something strange. I'm using something, some session probably that wasn't there. Okay. If I get again, yeah. So I just logged in, logged out and logged in, and now you can see that I got a ticket to that server principal.
Doesn't it only work in Firefox if you add your domain to within whitelist?
Yeah. Please repeat the question.
Doesn't it only work in Firefox if you add your domain to a hidden whitelist?
Yes, yes, and that's one of problems that the UX needs to obviously improve. We at the point when we can discover what domains are associated with Realm, with Kerberos Realm, we can do better than just changing some settings in about config and void your warranty, right? So I have this setting.
So it worked with the hardware key. Does it also work with software keys?
Yes, no difference.
Oh, okay, cool.
Actually, we can create another token using the software, but I don't know how to show the screen here, how to share it with you. So actually, I can just for fun.
So you use 3 OTP for this, right?
You can use any HT, OTP, TOTP compatible application. the workflow is that it shows you the QR code, and where is my, here's my free OTP application, and I can scan the code. And once I scanned, it's the first one here. Well, I had the same with the same name, but let's look. And if I press, there's some code that goes and disappears. By default, I think it's less than 30 seconds. So I can use the same code. It's not a problem. Now let's get back here. So once we got authenticated, we can talk to, we can decide what you can do with this authentication, right? I'm logged into the system, but it's not enough. So for example, if I need elevates and privileges, then I can derive something from this Kerberos ticket. But the Kerberos ticket usually has life of, like, say, 10 hours or 24 hours. And if you want to derive access rights, for example, becoming root based on availability of the ticket, then anyone who has access to the same session might actually use it. So for this thing, we moved in Fedora, I think 90, we moved the credentials cache that Kerberos stores data in from /tmp, from actual files, we moved to kernel keyring space. So it's only available in this session or a specific application defining how you do this. And only applications launched under that session can have access to the keyring. And if we look at the output of keylist, you can see that I actually have ticket cache prefixed with keyring, which means that it's not in the file system. It's somewhere in a secure kernel memory that nobody else other than this session can get access to. So from corporate environment perspective, SSSD includes some rules that allow you to say to which host, to which service on that host, who can have access. For example, you can say that users from VPN group can have access to VPN server, even if they obtained the ticket, and the ticket was obtained with strong enough authentication. That's not enough to allow them to use VPN. You can really enforce that. Or you can use a poll kit, that decision in a poll kit, forcing only members of admins group to always get the root on desktop machines of users for, I don't know, support purposes, for example. And we will have time-based rules so that you wouldn't be able to log in if you're logging in out of hours time, for example, or open location. And yeah, the authentication indicators can be used for providing additional information if it's needed, because they are in ticket, they are signed by the KDC. You can actually rely on them, that they are not forged by somebody else. And yeah, we can separate that. That needs additional discussion. How we define what is the actual string is there, how we define levels and map them and so on. But it seems to be good to rely on some strong authentication and strong encryption for providing this for multiple machines. And when you have 1 or 10 machines, it's not a big deal to configure things. But if you have more, you get into bad situation. So I will try to skip and get better, faster, because we are almost, yeah, we are almost done. So You can also fetch the identity information from SSSD, which is not only POSIX information. So POSIX information is your UID, GID, host shell, and the home directory, and so on. If you want more, like what certificates associated with this user, what are other attributes like contact information, what department this user in, and so on. You can ask SSSD in fairly recent Fedora and RHEL about this information. So you can configure its DBus-based interface. We're now thinking to extend this interface to allow you to essentially authenticate over it or ask authentication-related information, not only identity-related information, based on the authenticated information in the session. So you don't grant access, but you consult whether you can grant access. Then the other part is, which I'm not gonna show, is that with FreeIPA42 we actually added support for managing user certificates. So for each user you can issue certificates, multiple of them, and then SSSD can use smart cards to authenticate against these certificates. We also have, it's not working for me, but there's a work in progress to fix this, a password vault that is centralized for each user with a mechanism to access it from different machines on the different public-private pairs that allow you to store your credentials, your additional some data, and access it from multiple sources securely. So nobody will be able to access it other than you. It's useful very for environments like OpenStack, where you have automated services that need, for example, access Amazon EC2 environment, and they need some keys to drive the Amazon API. So you don't put those keys in clear, you put them in vault and allow them, using the JSS API authentication against the vault, retrieve the keys and run information. Everything is not in clear, everything is encrypted under current credentials that you have. But we can extend the same for users, because there is really no difference between users and others. And yeah, we have this support for OpenSC and CoolKey devices, and also the YubiKey should work, YubiKey Neo, the one that has smart card in it. I didn't try myself because I have PGP key on it already instead of S-MIME key or any other proper key, X509 key. But there are some details in the blog posts, and hopefully in Fedora 23 all this will be easily accessible. So when we talk about visualizing properties, the current environment in online accounts is pretty appalling. You cannot see what the ticket is, how long since it was issued, and all this other information. So we would like to extend this and show the ticket validity. Can you forward it for other service? Can you renew it? Authentication indicators to show user that it can use certain services. And if you have some tickets already in your credentials cache, you might want to remove them, essentially saying that you clear cookie-like token from that one. And yeah, if you have KDC that allows you to actually renew the tickets, the GNOME online accounts could renew. SSSD is able to do that already, and it could renew before they are expiring. But if the ticket was obtained with the second factor, you have to involve the user, because you don't have the new changed second factor to renew the ticket. Yes, that's just what I say. and the needed information can be provided by SSSD. So we can look into details and work over the UX workflows. And obviously the browser problem, like we discussed, about config manipulation is something that people don't really like because they don't understand why it's needed, why so many parameters are there. We can do better. So there's a bug against Mozilla on that. And once we fix the JSS API in WebKit, GTK, I would like to have this also in Epiphany and all the services that use embedded browser in GNOME. And the biggest problem is that the JSS API flow by design is synchronous. If it's synchronous, it can lock up the other tabs in browser if they are not done properly. So this needs to be done in a separate process and so on. So there's some work going, and the one thing that I left to show is Epsilon integration, but I don't think I need to show because you use this with GNOME, GNOME.org infrastructure already. And yeah, the final part is would be good to see web interfaces integrated into settings, that you can see them as a separate buttons here that you press, and if you have a ticket, you're automatically logged into web UI managing your properties in IPA or your server in Cockpit. And yeah. Detecting the free IPA client is easy, using SSSD is easy, Cockpit detection is easy as well, and that's it. Thank you. I'm here for until Sunday, so feel free to grab me and talk and more. And I think tomorrow is another talk in the morning, right? So I guess we will get a pretty unique situation that both big distributions, commercial distributions work and improving the GNOME enterprisey home workflows. Thanks.
Did you want to talk to me?
You have to stop it?
You
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.